What's going on, Ma? Welcome you guys to another watch party. It's a Thursday here as we're going to go through tons of videos, tons of stories, all the things going on locally, domestically, internationally, kind of an effect of what it is that we're doing here, but also more town hall madness to wrap up the hour as we're going on through. Yes, I'm starting a few minutes early because I tend to talk too much at the top, and also I hate going over because I feel like some of you guys on the back end take off to TDR. You miss some of the madness that happens on the back end, which sometimes I save the best for last. So if you do ever miss the beginning or end of this, tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone else that we do repost these stories back up on the watch list page afterwards. After I clean things up, cut them up, get rid of all my silences and all my weird sounds. And if you can't tell, the weird sounds are coming out of my nose right now because I'm starting to get sick. Damn it. Because I live in a state that doesn't want much to do with healthcare. And when it's a mass healthcare situation like this variant from COVID that's happening, it affects everybody. And also this new vaccine plan that our health and human health, our health secretary, RFK Jr., wants nothing to do with because he's a fucking quack. Let's go ahead and get started then. And pray for me. Let's get started with where RFK Jr. was talking on Fox and Friends, a little bit unrelated, but still related to how he thinks and the way this nation is going. Let's go.
Prevent it, and we're still trying to get a lot of answers to a ton of questions. But the one thing is clear: you are dealing with a person who's trans, that was transitioning. Are you going to be examining at all some of the drugs that are used in order to make that transition happening, to see if it plays a role? Because we also know there was a trans shooter in the Tennessee situation.
Yeah, we are doing those kind of studies now at NIH. We're launching studies on the potential contribution of some of the SSRI drugs and some of the other psychiatric drugs that might be contributing to violence. Many of them on there have black box warnings that warn of suicidal ideation and homicidal ideation. So we can't exclude those as a culprit, and those are the kind of studies that we're doing.
So I've never seen that medicine, but you're saying that if you get it, some of the side effects could be homicide, suicide?
Well, there are black box warnings on some of these psychiatric drugs that warn about in their clinical trials that they saw suicidal and homicidal ideation. So, we are going into that with an open mind.
That was a competition between two of the dumbest assholes you'll ever see. RFK Jr. talking about, first of all, that Minnesota school shooting from yesterday, and Brian Kilmeade, who's asking him, that person was going and transitioning. So are we going to look into those drugs that went into the transitioning as a reason behind some violent tendencies? Because, there's been two shootings where it's been folks like that as the culprit. He's going to ignore all the rest of those shootings that were straight white males that had some kind of conservative leanings and dictations and screeds about how they want to kill people based off of their race and superiority complexes, all that stuff. Forget that. We got two folks who transitioned, and maybe it's the drugs they were taking. And RFK Jr.'s dumbass brought up SSRI drugs. And if you don't know, those are antidepressants, anti-anxiety drugs. And then went back to the first clown, Brian Kilmeade, who said, those are the things that are part of it, because he doesn't know what those drugs are. He thought SSRI drugs were the things as part of the transition, because Brian Kilmeade's objective is to demonize trans folks. RFK's objective is to continue to be brainless. That's why he also said this.
I also know the next month you're going to announce what you think is going to be the cause of autism. And you say there are certain interventions that are causing it. Is there anything else you want to say to the people that are wondering why we're having this blitz of autism in America?
I mean, autism rates in 1970 in this country were less than 1 in 10,000. And the biggest epidemiological study in history was done that year in 1970. And it validated and confirmed many other studies, similar studies at the same time. So we've gone to the CDC announcing that 1 in every 31 Americans has autism. It's probably actually worse than that, because California, which has the best data collection system, reports that 1 out of every 19 kids now has autism, 1 out of every 12.5 boys. This is a crisis. There is not a single cause. There are many. There's an aggregation of causes.
Okay.
And we are now developing sufficient evidence to ask for regulatory action on some of those, or at least recommendations.
Mr. Secretary, it's an extremely busy day for you. A lot of change going on, and a lot.
He's looking for recommendations on certain things. There's a range of factors that cause autism, which of course is the worst thing ever. And so since he's looking for those range of factors, he's looking for regulations and regulatory measures against them. What, bro? He didn't identify a range of factors. But the one thing they want to point out is autism is a scourge of the earth. And just because people actually understand it now is what's making them believe that we've got this influx of it. But there's this other comparison that you could also take. Nazis, they had campaigns against folks with autism. They had campaigns against folks with more severe mental health problems. They had campaigns against that, and they eventually killed many of those people. It's weird how that keeps connecting to this administration, where the president continues to listen to people like RFK Jr. and be afraid of autism.
So there has to be something artificially causing this, meaning a drug or something. And I know you're looking very strongly at different things, and I hope you can come out with that as soon as possible.
We will.
So 1 in 10,000, and now it's 1 in 31 or 34 or 12 if it's a boy. Can you imagine that? 1 in 12. That's for a boy.
1 out of every 12.5 boys.
It's not even believable that could be. So
They speak to his dumbest tendencies. So again, Donald Trump has issues with autism. So Donald Trump says it must be something artificial because I don't understand anything. We'll just fire scientists. We'll get rid of research. We'll take away all kind of funding for anything medical or scientific so that we can just assume shit. So we could just say it must be something else, like the food colors and the dyes and the fats and the trans fats, which all can be bad. But just because you link it to autism and then school shooters and all this doesn't make it true. It just makes your stupid thoughts become policy, which eventually kills people. Speaking of looking to kill people, this is the next step that RFK Jr. has in his plan to, kill people.
The Food and Drug Administration has approved the next round of COVID shots for the fall, but only for a more limited group of people. The updated vaccine is approved for adults 65 and older. The FDA also gave the green light for kids and adults with at least one medical condition that puts them at risk of severe illness. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced the approval in a post on X today. The new restrictions are likely to affect what insurance covers, especially for people who do not qualify for the updated COVID shots. According to the CDC's vaccine price list, a COVID shot could cost up to $140 without insurance.
And that's how they control people's lives. So there's new limitations on COVID vaccines. That vaccine that Donald Trump bragged incessantly about having his hyper speed approach to having it developed because, he almost died of COVID. That was after he said it wasn't real, we won't test, and then those numbers will go down. His complete betrayal of the American people at the beginning of the COVID crisis. He then wanted to do something different because he almost died. Now, all of a sudden, they need to get rid of it. Why? So they could give more money. I tell you guys all the time, it always goes straight back to giving rich people more money. So it has to be more cuts to it, but it's also under the guise of convincing enough people in this country that if you take this, you're going to die. There's this weird thing we've got, choice. So if you don't want any new COVID variant vaccines, there's this really cool thing you can do. You cannot get them. and then allow people that want them to, get them. But this is still the same party that let's talk about how the Democrats want to control your lives and get all between you and your doctor and get into your house, but they keep invading women's wombs. They keep invading people's rights to health care. They keep invading people's access to vaccines when it's been proven scientifically by those people that they're envious and jealous of, that are smart, that they're just trying to kill you. That is while we have outbreaks of measles. Somebody got the fucking plague, bro. Did you hear about that? So they're limiting it, and they want to make sure that only people who have tons of money can pay for that vaccine. It's almost like they're continuing to cater to only rich folks. Donald Trump's former Surgeon General, Jerome Adams. Did you guys see him talking about this? Because he's alarmed. I'm going to say it one more time. Donald Trump's former Surgeon General.
For folks who may not be familiar, though, Margaret, mRNA stands for messenger mRNA. It's a natural molecule that's in all of our bodies. It's like a recipe card that tells your body how to make a protein. And this idea, again, helps us develop vaccines and new treatments for everything from cancer, melanoma, which my wife has, to HIV, to better flu vaccines and Zika. These are advances that are not going to happen now. People are going to die because we're cutting short funding for this technology.
It's interesting you talk about President Trump's great achievement there, because he was asked by my colleague Nancy Cordes about Operation Warp Speed, and this is what he said this week. Take a listen.
Operation Warp Speed was, whether you're Republican or Democrat, considered one of the most incredible things ever done in this country. The efficiency, the way it was done, the distribution, everything about it has been amazing.
What would have happened in 2020 if we didn't have mRNA vaccines?
If we did not have mRNA vaccines, the best experts at the time, Bill Gates, Tony Fauci, were saying it would have taken at least 18 to 24 additional months to get a vaccine. The record before that, Margaret, was 6 years to get a vaccine using the technology that Secretary Kennedy says he wants to go back to, whole virus technology. And so, as I mentioned, by the most conservative estimates, at least 2 million lives were saved. Many people say that up to 20 million lives were saved because of these vaccines. It is President Trump's greatest achievement, bar none.
It will save lives. People now are going to die. I just want to point out again, after this guy came into office and many opponents, one of those folks being me, was talking about how this will kill people. Also, when he was in office the first time and he ignored COVID at the beginning and acted like it was nothing so that he could save face because he was only thinking about himself, it killed people. So when they keep saying that all these folks love them some President Trump, maybe you should ask, we can't. All those dead people that are dead as a direct result of his policies. Those policies aren't just based in vaccines. Those policies are also based in taking away people's health care, access to doctors, access to care, and more people will die. Closures of hospitals. Again, all going back to that same bill that they signed to give more money to rich people. And when you give away resources and money to rich people, they hold it by yachts and new cars and other folks who pay them, where our tax dollars are supposed to go to our lives, from flood warnings to infrastructure to deaths that come from all these different aspects. Regular folks die, but we pay for our deaths. Maybe that radical that was in Trump's administration the first time, maybe he's just lying. So again, the guardrails are off. So when the guardrails are off, anyone left that has any thought process or mental capacity to do their jobs professionally, they get fired.
Department of Health and Human Services announces the director of the CDC is out. Ann Thompson is with us now. And Ann, you have some late-breaking details here. Do we know what happened?
Tom, it is a mess. HHS says Susan Manaras is out as director of the CDC, but her attorneys say she has not resigned and has not received notification from the White House that she has been fired. In a statement, her attorneys also say that she refused to rubber stamp unscientific, reckless directors and fire dedicated health experts. NBC News is also reporting that 4 other top CDC leaders are resigning. Manaras, who was appointed by President Trump, spent just a few weeks in office, weeks that were marked by that horrific shooting at the Atlanta headquarters.
So now RFK Jr. is firing anyone that's left responsible in the CDC. And then since that's now the commissioner there who was against following quack orders and unscientific approaches and agendas, and then refused to resign because I guess she felt the need to still try to be there to have some kind of competency left in the department, they get rid of her. And as you heard at the back end, other folks decide to leave as well, which kind of sucks. Here's more details as to this firing and also the departures of these other professionals that know what they're doing. Here, check it out. So from NBC News, the leadership crisis at the CDC erupted the same day the Food and Drug Administration announced new limits on who can get the latest approved round of COVID vaccines that I was just talking about. Here, Susan Manaras is not aligned with the president's agenda of making America healthy again. That's what the spokesman Kush Desai said in a statement. Since Susan Manaras refused to resign despite informing Health and Human Services Department leadership of her intent to do so, the White House has terminated her from the position with the CDC. You know, that's a tough guy thing to do. Get rid of the person who's still thinking. Here's more from that. When CDC Director Susan Manaras refused to rubber stamp unscientific, reckless directives and fire dedicated health experts, she chose protecting the public over serving a political agenda. That's what her attorney then also said. And then he said for that, she's been targeted. It's a direct agenda and approach and a step-by-step way to go to getting rid of anyone smart. Do you guys remember these this campaign against smart people? They called them elitists. When the elitists are stupid and taking money, they're controlling your life, but they're going to call smart people who have a lifelong of studying this stuff, having a care for notifying the American citizens about the dangers and their health situations. They're firing them. And here's the other folks that are leaving because of it, which is kind of sad because it's leaving more openings for more yes men and stupid people to be there. 4 other officials also submitted their resignations on Wednesday in a massive shakeup at the agency. Here's those folks. Dr. Deborah Oury, the CDC's chief medical officer, Dr. Dimitri Deskakis, director of the National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases, and Dr. Daniel Jurganen, the director of the National Center for Emerging and Zoonotic Infectious Diseases. Also, Jennifer Layden, who's the director of the Office of Public Health Data, Surveillance, and Technology. I can't even pronounce some of their positions or names, but they know what they're doing. Oury, in a resignation letter obtained by NBC News, wrote about the dangers of the spread of vaccine misinformation and said proposed budget cuts and reorganization plans would negatively affect the CDC's ability to address conditions like hypertension, diabetes, cancer, overdoses, and mental health issues. In his resignation letter, also obtained by NBC, Deskakis said that he was leaving the agency because of the ongoing weaponization of public health. These folks can't sit by because then their powers and their abilities to do their jobs are getting stripped. So their names would just be attached to all of this madness, all of this death, all this destruction. And they probably have, you know, these principles within their minds where they're like, I can't be a part of something like this. And if they stay, they probably just fight this fight and still lose it and then eventually get fired anyway. But we're listening to RFK Jr., brainworm guy, the one who said he like took some drugs and then got smarter. I mean, some heavy ass drugs. There was also posts about who some of these resignations came from. One of them was Dr. Dimitri, as I pointed out. I want to just give you guys a couple of quotes from his very long resignation letter, which talked about his time there, his professional life in doing so, and his dedication to the American people and the people that he's looking to protect with the knowledge that he's had and this weird thing, studies and information and education that he's got. But this is what he was putting up with and the reasons why he left. Dr. Dimitri said, "This decision has not come easily, as I deeply value the work that the CDC does in safeguarding public health, and I'm proud of my contributions to that critical mission. However, after much contemplation and reflection on recent developments and perspectives brought to light by Secretary RFK Jr., I find that the views he and his staff have shared challenge my ability to continue in my current role at the agency and in the service of the health of the American people. And he said, enough is enough. Here's details of what it is that he was dealing with. Here's the last quote from him, I promise. I'm unable to serve in an environment that treats CDC as a tool to generate policies and materials that do not reflect scientific reality and are designed to hurt rather than improve the public's health. The recent change in the adult and children's immunization schedule threatened the lives of the youngest Americans and pregnant people. The data analyses that supported this decision have never been shared with CDC, despite my respectful requests to HHS and other leadership. They just make pause. They've been making things up, and they won't share their made up assumptions like what RFK Jr. was doing at the beginning with SSRIs, with people who know what they're doing, because they know that people that know what they're doing are going to say, this is stupid. All right, continuing on from his resignation letter. This lack of meaningful engagement was further compounded by a frequently asked questions document written to support the secretary's directive that was circulated by HHS without input from CDC, subject matter experts, and that cited studies that did not support the conclusions that were attributed to these authors. Having worked in local and national public health for years, I've never experienced such radical non-transparency, nor have I seen such unskilled manipulation of data to achieve a political end rather than the good of the American people. Just listen to the people who've been there. Listen to the people who have, so many lives have been saved and changed. We've got the actual evidence. When scientists go through scientific research, they do this thing, they write it down, they test it, they extensively go over it, they peer review it, other folks go in and talk about it as well and do their studies, and afterwards they come to these conclusions about what it is that's happening based off of reality, evidence, and research. And instead we got RFK Jr. saying, I don't know, it's just because there must be autism. Do you guys remember when RFK Jr. was getting confirmed and going through the Senate, and people were saying this is going to be the most dangerous confirmation potentially of this entire administration? And of course, maybe some Democrats voted on it because they were like, I don't know. I mean, he's the president now, so I got to do everything he wants. And we definitely know the Republicans all jumped on board because they're afraid of this guy. One of those people was Senator Tom Tillis. I think he's the one that's leaving soon because he knows now that he set the House on fire, he's just going to take off and act like he had nothing to do with it. Here he is talking about the reasons why he decided to confirm RFK Jr., despite them seeing right in front of them what's going on.
To the committee and to Cassidy personally.
That's right. Well,
and Cassidy has come to the conclusion that those were not truthful
well, look, I
promises and assertions.
Cassidy was willing to vote. If Cassidy had voted no on Kennedy, I would have voted no, because that's how much stock I put in Bill Cassidy's technical expertise. He's just an extraordinary, brilliant person. But I think he appropriately was going to give Kennedy a chance to say, look, we're going to cut through the rhetoric. We're just going to see.
Haley, thank you so much.
No, we're great. I think we're good.
Excellent. Thank you.
I said, as a practical matter, we need to see if he's going to be right on vaccines, and he's drifting a bit. I mean,
Tom Tillis said that RFK Jr. is drifting a little bit on his conversations about vaccines. RFK Jr. was never on the right side with vaccines. He's been vowing to do exactly what he's doing since his dumbass stepped into the spotlight, since he was running for president. Before then, he made this deal with Donald Trump to give him this role as long as he goes and supports him. But Tom Tillis said he believed in Bill Cassidy, a medical doctor, a Republican senator, his colleague, because he gave him a chance. This is the way that Bill Cassidy broke down the reasons why he gave RFK Jr. a chance. But I'm going to go through this fully. He had like a 10-minute speech, but I broke it down in smaller parts and I didn't get every second of it, so it's not going to be that long. But I want to give you guys a step-by-step breakdown of what it is that Bill Cassidy said that convinced people like Tom Tillis, who don't know shit, to then trust him, even though they all knew So many lives have been saved because of vaccine science evidence. This is what Bill Cassidy said right before they then went to confirm RFK Jr., who's now trying to kill us.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a statement regarding my vote in committee to, on behalf of Robert F. Kennedy, to be the Secretary of HHS. Before entering politics, before ever thinking about running for political office, I practiced medicine for 30 years in a public hospital for the uninsured, caring for those who otherwise would not have been able to afford the access to the care that I provided. After seeing patients die from vaccine-preventable diseases, I dedicated much of my time to vaccine research and immunization programs, personally witnessing the safety monitoring and the effectiveness of immunization. Put simply, vaccines save lives. This is the context that informed me when considering RFK as the nominee to be Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services.
Bill Cassidy believes in vaccines. Bill Cassidy worked in areas where he saw the evidence of vaccines saving lives. That wasn't Bill Cassidy talking about some lib hippie that said vaccines save lives. That was Bill Cassidy, senator from Louisiana, saying that vaccines save lives. And he had his reservations about RFK Jr. because RFK Jr. said vaccines kill. This was the next part of what he was saying.
Now, the most notable opponents of Mr. Kennedy were pediatricians on the front lines of our children's health, who regularly have to combat misinformation, combating vaccine skepticism with correct information that comes from their education, their training, and experience as physicians. They are aware of the falling vaccine rates and the inevitability of increasing hospitalizations and deaths of children from vaccine-preventable diseases. They are aware that children are now contracting diseases that they would not have contracted if the child was vaccinated.
Not only does Bill Cassidy have any knowledge against what RFK Jr. was preaching, but so do pediatricians, the number one group, he said, on top of his own knowledge, that were against RFK Jr.'s confirmation was pediatricians. As this Kennedy guy keeps talking about how he's looking to protect the children. It's always the children they're looking to protect right before they attack children. It's the same thing the president was talking about. Oh, he's all about stopping pedophiles and human trafficking right before he covered up the biggest pedophile human trafficker in history. I mean, that we know of. There's probably bigger ones. But still, more of Bill Cassidy and how he then went around from all that knowledge, all that concrete evidence, that great case that he made against voting for RFK Jr. This is then what he said. Is what's going to make him come around on him.
Now, regarding vaccines, Mr. Kennedy has been insistent that he just wants good science and to ensure safety. But on this topic, the science is good. The science is credible. Vaccines save lives. They are safe. They do not cause autism. There are multiple studies that show this. They are a crucial part of our nation's public health response. Now, Mr. Kennedy and the administration reached out seeking to reassure me regarding their commitment to protecting the public health benefit of vaccination. To this end, Mr. Kennedy and the administration committed that he and I would have an unprecedentedly close collaborative working relationship if he is confirmed. We will meet or speak multiple times a month. This collaboration will allow us to work well together and therefore to be more effective. Mr. Kennedy has asked for my input into hiring decisions at HHS beyond Senate confirmed positions, and this aspect of the collaboration will allow us to represent all sides of those folks who are contacting me over this past weekend. He has also committed that he had worked within current vaccine approval and safety monitoring systems and not establish parallel systems. If confirmed, he will maintain the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices recommendations without changes. CDC will not remove statements on their website pointing out that vaccines do not cause autism.
He said it again. Vaccines do not cause autism. And we started this whole thing with RFK Jr. going on about we have to make sure we get rid of all these things that's happening with public health because they cause autism. He's not going to name what all those things are because he has no effing clue. He's just going on with what it is that he's saying. But again, Bill Cassidy, who Tom Tillis told us is a very smart guy, a medical doctor who was a doctor before he became a senator. That was then before he became a Republican senator whose primary job was no longer to take care of patients or have any kind of sensibility about what he is and what he knows, but it's to follow Donald Trump. It's to toe the line of partisanship. It's to then say, because Donald Trump is stupid, and it's because he then nominated an even dumber person in RFK Jr. on this issue, that I just have to go along with it because they assured me that they're going to work with me and not do all the things that they're doing right now. He said they reached out to me. They reached out to him and they lied to you. I'm just curious as when he's going to realize that. They said they're going to work with you and they're not going to do all those changes at the CDC that we're currently seeing happening at the CDC. Here's the last aspect of Cassidy's, I guess, him getting fooled into thinking that this was going to be something other than what it is.
These commitments and my expectation that we can have a great working relationship to make America healthy again is the basis of my support. He will be the secretary, but I believe he will also be a partner in working for this end. If Mr. Kennedy is confirmed, I will use my authority as chairman of the Senate Committee with Oversight of HHS to rebuff any attempt to remove the public's access to life-saving vaccines without ironclad, causational, scientific evidence that can be accepted and defended before the mainstream scientific community and before Congress. I will watch carefully for any effort to wrongfully sow public fear about vaccines between confusing references of coincidence and anecdote. But my support is built on assurances that this will not have to be a concern and that he and I can work together to build an agenda to make America healthy again. We need a leader at HHS who will guide President Trump's agenda to make America healthy again. Based on Mr. Kennedy's assurances on vaccines and his platform to positively influence Americans' health, it is my consideration that he will get this done.
It looks like your consideration was wrong. That last consideration. I mean, all the other considerations and the mentions of reality and vaccines, those were right, but you suppressed and buried those. And then went along with this. So you're on the hook, bro. Your hands are bloody. So as people then get sick and as people die and as research is taken away from all those things I was talking about, hypertension, cancer, all these other ailments, it's not just when it comes to vaccines and COVID, which they're taking away right now. Where's that power going to kick in that you said you now have to veto these things and make sure he doesn't eliminate people's access to vaccines? When is that going to start? I feel like someone should probably ask Senator Bill Cassidy what he now thinks after he had that very long, extensive, well thought out speech. Manu Raju asked him how he feels. I want you guys to watch this.
Do you regret your vote on RFK Jr.?
You know, Manu, you can refer to our tweet on that.
I know you have some different questions. You're trying to get something similar, and this is not going to come in.
Thank you,
How
guys.
about whether
That'll be
you
all.
still stand by that vote?
Senator Bill Cassidy ran his cowardly ass away. I know what you're trying to get from this. I know you're trying to ask questions about whether or not I regret my vote, my well thought out, excuse ridden vote. Do I regret it? I'm not going to comment on it. I'm gonna highlight this. People's lives are in danger. People already have lost their lives. Folks are going to get very sick. Public health is at risk. That's according to what Bill Cassidy said. Children won't be vaccinated. Children will get sick. Children have gotten sick. We've had measles outbreaks already. And all that is happening to regular Americans who pay money in taxes. And the guy who said you should trust me said, I have no comment. So the next time somebody says that you've got Trump derangement syndrome and that you hate Donald Trump just because anytime this guy's brought up, you're obsessed with just hating him, point out the fact that they want you dead. And then ask yourself, would you dislike the guy that wants you dead? And that's actively implementing policies that'll get that done as quickly as possible. That's the Republican Party. That's MAGA. Okay. That was a half an hour. I told you guys it was a lot. But sometimes we need to really break down in detail how we get to where we are, because they're making it really easy for people to forget. They do an aggressive, overwhelming negative action every day. And you go, well, I mean, I can't keep track of the fact that they're trying to kill me, that my local hospital is closing, that I'm losing my Medicare and Medicaid, that they're taking my money, that I'm losing my job, that manufacturing is drying up, that trade deals are horrible. I can't keep track of it all. Invasions of our cities, I can't keep track of it all. So I guess I won't keep track of any of it. They've got a team of people that are attacking this country in every angle possible. Let's move on to Donald Trump and his approach to Vladimir Putin. I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but he was asked about Vladimir Putin's continued aggression in Ukraine. And I'm bringing this not because it's gotten worse, surprisingly. This was from last week when he had that press conference in the Oval Office, I believe. And someone asked him, but I'm talking about, nobody even asked him. He brought out this picture and look at him show it off like show and tell because he's a 5-year-old.
I thought you'd all like to see it. That's a man named Vladimir Putin, who I believe will be coming, depending on what happens. He may be coming and he may not, depending on what happens. We have a lot of things happening over the next couple of weeks. But I thought it was a nice picture of him. Okay of me, but nice of him. So that was very nice that it was sent to me. Okay?
Mr. President,
yes.
on that subject, have you talked to Vladimir Putin about the fact that yesterday a big U.S. factory was hit in a Russian airstrike in Ukraine? What's your reaction to
I
that?
told him I'm not happy about it. And I'm not happy about anything having to do with that war. I settled 7 wars, and actually, if you think about pre-wars, add 3 more, so it would be 10. I thought this would be in the middle of the pack in terms of difficulty. No, I'm not happy about anything about that war. Nothing. Not happy at all. We'll see what happens. I thought you were.
He showed a photograph of him standing next to Vladimir Putin at that summit in Alaska with the Russian leader, and dude was just proud of it. I mean, Vladimir Putin looks great, and I mean me okay because I'm a subservient little guy next to him. He showed off a picture that apparently Vladimir Putin sent to him. And he's going to frame it, I guess, and put it somewhere out there because he's acting like people didn't see constant video of them standing next to each other on the red carpet. He's acting like this is some official nice thing. We've seen the videos, bro. It's not like you're breaking any news. But he's impressed that Vladimir Putin sent him a picture, bro. And we'll see what happens. When asked about the constant attacks that have happened since that meeting on an American company that's in the area, I don't like any of it, but we'll see what happens. Here, maybe he can see this happening. Is he seeing what's happening? Because what's happening is, I don't know if you guys saw the date at the top corner of that video of Russian missiles bombing in central Kyiv. That date was August 28th, and oddly, that's today. So as rockets were launched into central Kyiv, an area of 4 million residents, 32 missiles were launched and 598 attack drones sent there. And that was security camera footage that showed those two missiles striking this very popular street and damaged residential buildings, and the EU diplomatic mission and British consul there as well. 15 people are dead at least, including 4 children. And Donald Trump wants to continue to see what happens. But he's got a fucking picture of him and Vladimir Putin walking around on a red carpet. He's the presentation president. He doesn't know what he's doing. And the little bit that he does know what he's doing is he's carrying Vladimir Putin's water as he continues this same onslaught, and have the next meeting, and then the next meeting. And then I'll send Steve Witkoff, and then I'll see that envoy, and then the third envoy. And they'll keep giving me middle fingers, and I'll keep saying they're doing a great job and we should give up more. Ukraine should give up more territory because that'll stop him. JD Vance went on TV too. I think it was on the Sunday shows to try and explain this away. I'm not sure if they sent him or he's like, I'll do it. I think I have a good grasp on this, Mr. President, because everything you say is so stupid. People are beginning to realize that you're an absolute sucker. Problem is so is JD Vance. He just doesn't know it.
You talk about concessions, and yet the Russians rejected the ceasefire proposal that President Trump put forward. There's no meeting plan between President Putin and President Zelensky. And this week, Russia targeted an American factory in Ukraine. There were 600 people inside at the time. No one was killed. What makes you think President Putin is serious about peace?
Well, I didn't say they conceded on everything, but what they have conceded is the recognition that Ukraine will have territorial integrity after the war. They've recognized that they're not going to be able to install a puppet regime in Kiev. That was, of course, a major demand at the beginning. And importantly, they've acknowledged that there is going to be some security guarantee to the territorial integrity of Ukraine. Again, have they made every concession? Of course they haven't. Should they have started the war? Of course they haven't. But we're making progress, Kristen. And what I admire about the president in this moment is he's not asking 3.5 years ago. He's not, trying to focus on every nitpicky detail of how this thing started 3.5 years ago. He's trying to focus on the nitpicky details of now.
You talk about.
I take it back. JD Vance knows what he's doing. He's just bad at that too. He doesn't want to focus on those nitpicky details of how this whole thing started. What he wants to focus on is those nitpicky details of what it is that they're still not doing as far as any kind of concessions, any kind of negotiations, any kind of ceasefires. Every time those nitpicky details of him doing the things that they celebrate by holding up pictures of him standing next to Vladimir Putin, it's those nitpicky details that they're still not doing, and you're still just excusing them for. Because the objective is to follow behind Vladimir Putin. And again, you guys remember whatever it is that was said in that meeting in Alaska when multiple news outlets, even Fox News, was talking about how he got steamrolled, and they said they walked out and they looked like wide-eyed and surprised and shocked. It was because they steamrolled them. And now all that's left is to try and excuse and pursue and give more credence to Vladimir Putin. It's weird, though. I don't know why anybody's still listening to them. So curious, saying more.
But was President Trump, were you enraged when you learned that Russia targeted an American company based in Ukraine?
I don't
was
like
that not
it,
a slap
Kristen.
in the face
I
to the
don't
peace
like
process?
it, Kristen, but this is a war, and this is why we want to stop the killing. The Russians have done a lot of things that we don't like. A lot of civilians have died. We've condemned that stuff from the get-go. And frankly, President Trump has done more to apply pressure and to apply economic leverage to the Russians, certainly than Joe Biden did for 3.5 years when he did nothing but talk, but do nothing to bring the killing to a stop. So you ask me what I'm enraged by. What I'm enraged by is the continuation of the war. What I'm enraged by is a presidency and Joe Biden who for 3 years did nothing to end the killing. What I'm actually excited about right now is that we have a president who's engaging in energetic diplomacy to try to stop the killing.
But was President
He's not outraged by an American company being targeted. He's not outraged by the continued bombing. What he's outraged by is Joe Biden. He's outraged by Joe Biden because that's the calling card for this administration. Hey, get cornered. If you get cornered in an interview, guys, bring up Joe Biden, because apparently they have this thought process that as long as they say the name Joe Biden, that it's going to excuse them of all the things they're doing. He's excited about the killing ending. That's what he said. JD Vance said he's excited that this president is pursuing an ending to the killing. One more time. An ending to the killing. That's what JD Vance is excited about, but he wants to talk about Joe Biden. That's what he wants to talk about. So again, I think as anyone can see, you don't have to be some kind of foreign policy expert. You don't have to be some kind of negotiator. You don't have to be a foreign policy envoy to go and end wars. This war that the president said he was going to end in 24 hours, that now he doesn't really care about that. Same way he doesn't care anymore about finishing these 90 deals in 90 days of his tariff policy, because that's also bullshit too. What it is he's caring about is the ending of the killing. So the last question that was asked of JD Vance was, do you think he's being strung along here? Because every time they say they're going to do something and then they don't do it, it's followed up by a bomb and an onslaught of killing.
I had the opportunity to speak with the Russian foreign minister.
I heard.
Yes, he says, as of right now, there's no meeting planned between President Putin and President Zelensky. And he added, there needs to be an agenda first, saying, quote, this agenda is not ready at all. Are the Russians stringing President Trump along?
No, not at all, Kristen. I think the Russians have made significant concessions to President Trump for the first time in 3.5 years of this conflict. They've actually been willing to be flexible on some of their core demands. They've talked about what would be necessary to end the war. Of course, they haven't been completely there yet, or the war would be over. But we're engaging in this diplomatic process in good faith. We are trying to negotiate as much as we can with both the Russians and the Ukrainians to find a middle ground to stop the killing.
I had the
Nothing. He's not being strung along. He just hasn't been agreeing to anything that he's been saying he's doing as they go along and continue on this war. Okay, fine. But listen to Donald Trump tell you he's ended 10 wars, because they just make things up. Man, can anyone that supports this administration tell me one thing that they've done right? And not even just because they're making mistakes. They've made 98% of that. The other 2% is the purposeful approach to destroying everything in their way. It's destruction, it's chaos, and it's incompetence on top of it. So he's surrounded himself with more incompetent people, and the people that you don't see, the people that you don't hear from, they're the ones who know what they're doing. They're the ones who have the same agenda as Vladimir Putin. They're the ones who want to take over this country and turn it into a fascist state. They just have a guy at the front of it who's a presentation guy who can look at a picture of him and Vladimir Putin and go, yeah, see this? Maybe you guys haven't seen it. It's nice, isn't it? I look okay, but he looks great. The guy who's killing people looks wonderful. He's my best friend. Did you know? One more story, you guys. I got 15 minutes left. See if we can burn through this. Glad you guys are here. I haven't had the opportunity to say hi again. I see you guys are all in the middle of all the discussions surrounding this stuff. So If you're enjoying it, go ahead, hit the like button on that stream. Go ahead and share it so people know. And we start this every day, you guys, in case you guys are new to this, at noon Eastern, 9 o'clock Pacific, and it's 11 o'clock in the central of the country, and wherever else you are in the world. I mean, I guess you're going to have to figure it out from there because I don't really know. Again, we'll have these going up afterwards. The clips will be up. I need you guys to share and like those as well. Get some momentum going is what we're doing, which I continue to see grow. I'm glad to see that happen. It means you guys are helping me out. Help me out a little bit more as we get going into this last little bit before we jump into TDR afterwards for a Thursday. Maybe you guys have seen this Republican Representative Josh Breachin. He's a Republican from Oklahoma. He actually went home and did have, during this long-ass August recess, since we haven't heard from Congress at all, he did have a few town halls. He's been plastering his page about how he's having town halls. This is some of the stuff that he's been talking about in his town halls, though. This is the downside.
Yeah, we've got Sharia law trying to be set up in America today. Absolutely, we do. You have Sharia law trying to be established in America today. The Muslim Brotherhood is the ideology, and you've got a Turkey president, guys. We're not going to turn into chaos. We've been really good to each other today. Turkey has a president who has made statements relative to reestablishing the Ottoman Empire, and he wants to be. We've got Sharia law trying to be.
That's Josh Breachin. And look out, bro. Sharia law is on the horizon yet again. It's like, it's like 2008 or something, because Sharia law is back. Did you know that the Turkey president is looking to establish Sharia law? I'm not sure if Josh has heard, but the American president is looking to establish fascism, in this country, where you're standing, where people are chuckling and laughing at you. But it's odd enough that seemed to be the most disruptive portion of this whole thing, because the people kept listening to his dumbass say all these things. And in fact, when they asked him questions where he didn't know how to answer, I don't know why they didn't start throwing tomatoes, but it's probably because they cost too much. Check out this question and answer.
I've heard President Trump say more than once that he has lowered drug prices by 1,500%. I'm not sure how that works. And the other is, can you tell me what specific bills we've passed or worked on that would lower grocery prices?
Yeah. Well, ma'am, you're talking about things relative to state level. And so you're mixing federal and state in terms of if you look at what the 18 enumerated powers say, the 18 enumerated powers that when every member of Congress holds up their hand, swears an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. And most people who run for Congress don't know those 18 enumerated powers. And they don't know the 10th Amendment that says the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, or reserved to the states or their people respectively. And so what I'm saying to you is Oklahoma, if you want to have that conversation about grocery taxes, they've been having that conversation. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, but relative to constitutional authority and the way that I have my staff analyze things, what we're allowed to do, okay, what we're allowed to do is it has to be under the framework. We are given tax status, but tell me the federal tax right now on groceries. So what I'm saying is state. You're talking about state. Who's next?
That wasn't an answer. There's a difference. There's a federal and there's a state. So what are the state taxes on groceries? She didn't ask about state taxes on groceries. She asked about lowering grocery prices, because the guy that you follow behind and sniff his ass, he said he's going to get grocery prices down. That was then until he implemented his policies that made everything get higher. It's weird, but that was his way of avoiding that answer. He knew he didn't have an answer. He knew that everything is getting worse, and he couldn't acknowledge that. So he had to come up with something about the enumerated powers and how the federal government isn't really affecting the state's grocery prices. If that's the case, why did the now president say that he, as the president in the federal government, could affect grocery prices in Oklahoma? Why did he say it? Was he lying to you, or are you lying to us now? What are those conversations that are happening in Oklahoma about lowering grocery prices? Is he saying that leadership, all these Republicans in Oklahoma, should be voted out? Is that what he's saying? Because he's a representative of the whole state, but he's in up in Washington. Should they be fired? Did Josh Breachin say that all these Oklahoma Republicans are incompetent and aren't doing their jobs? It's weird, but he wasn't even done. Because again, here's a question about what he did sign on to, and that's that tax and the budget bill that they passed, where they're taking away people's Medicaid and Medicare. And his answer was arguably worse.
I grew up on a farm just over the county lines. I'm sure you grew up down native. I want to clarify a few points. You can check this on congress.gov. Text of the One Big Beautiful Bill. It cuts Medicare by over $50 billion, including over $30 billion.
It doesn't touch Medicare.
I think you might want to reread the bill.
So I've been involved in the process. I've been on the budget committee. It doesn't touch Medicare.
It also
Are you meaning Medicaid?
I'm also meaning, well, it cuts Medicaid as well. Largely cuts Medicaid, including over $2 billion for the state of Oklahoma. You have put my hospital at risk, sir. I'm leaving I must admit, on my phone, how easy it is to occur on the job. I'm sure you do too. Why should, when we can read this and we can read the text of the bill on congress.gov, why should we believe what's in this?
Because what you're saying is not true. You don't have any facts to back up what you just said.
I read the bill.
You don't have facts to back up what you just said. I'm sorry. You just don't. And this is the problem. People will make statements and they don't have facts to back it up.
I agree. I agree. That's a big problem, that people make statements and they don't have any facts to back them up. One of those statements being that you're wrong when that gentleman asked him about how this bill cuts Medicare and Medicaid. And he's a farmer with a top hat on, so you really got to listen to him. But he's too stupid to realize you're just wrong, sir. You're a dummy. Yet I don't have any answers that'll tell you the opposite. All I said was you're wrong. Here's some answers that guy probably read in the breakdown of that bill. There are Medicaid cuts in that. The law enacted in July of 2025 will cut Medicaid funding by more than $900 billion over the next decade. That's what the CBO estimated. You know, that office that all Republicans now say is completely null and void. Here's some ways that they're doing it. Work requirements, provider taxes, reduced eligibility and renewal, and immigrant eligibility. That wasn't even a problem before, but they bring all this stuff up to take away more of your money. And then there was a bit of a discussion back and forth about, is it Medicare or Medicaid that they're cutting with this? Oddly, as again, the guy with the big top hat said, it's both of them. Here's the way they're cutting Medicare too. Automatic pay-go cuts, Medicare savings programs, and again, that immigrant eligibility stuff. So this was the arguments that Mike Johnson was having when he said, I've talked to all these people at town halls that I haven't attended at all or organized in any way whatsoever. And all they keep telling me is they want to work in order to get their health care, not pay their taxes, not be an American in the most, the richest country in the history of the world that we always like to brag about. But unless you're an indentured servant, you don't get to go to the doctor. If you break your leg, you don't get to go to the doctor unless you have an exorbitant $10,000 bill. If you get cancer, because, you know, we don't research that anymore. Hypertension, because the guy at HHS doesn't care about that stuff because he's concerned about autism. Now you're on your own. But the guy that represents, and I put those in serious quotation marks, supposed to be representing these folks, what he has to say is you're wrong about the facts, about what everyone knows now that you've signed on to that bill. But he was asked a pretty intelligent questions about what is they could do maybe as far as, you know, providing healthcare for citizens of, again, this greatest nation on earth. There's a direct comparison to another country that does things the right way in this question and answer.
Previously expressed that you want to make America healthy again, aka MAHA. Without the marketplace created by ACA or Medicaid expansion, many wouldn't be able to afford health insurance or health care. In order to make America healthy again, would you support healthcare reform that offers a public option to all Americans, such as Japan's model, which prices premiums based on income and is available for all residents to opt into if they wish?
So you give me a little bit of information there. I would need to know a whole lot more. I am absolutely in favor of the MAHA movement. I met early on with RFK, with a group of us, because with Marco Rubio, who's now Secretary of State, he allowed me to join him when I first got to Congress on the making all SNAP, formerly known generations ago as food stamps, to make all SNAP purchases be free of the unhealthy elements of dessert and certain things that we know drive up obesity rates for kiddos, and just, you know, all the correlations, long-term effects of health outcomes. And so I know, based upon what Callie Means, who's been a large part of the RFK MAHA movement, Callie has told me personally that our bill that I now have with Mike Lee is a priority for them. We're continuing to push that, y'all, that if you are going to be on SNAP, and receiving food assistance, we think it's more than wise for the long-term health outcomes for people that may also be eligible for Medicaid, long-term other, you know, when they turn 65, be eligible for Medicare. It is a great investment in its wisdom to make sure we're not allowing the purchase of sugary drinks and prepackaged desserts, and healthy foods become the standard model again, and that leads to great outcomes, which not only will bless us as a nation, make us healthier, but financially will bless us when the downstream effects of health impacts, and the largest driver of our healthcare cost is hospitalization rates, and so many things can be prevented by nutrition and healthy eating. So encourage all of you. I know Oklahoma has been also looking at some things they could do. State Senator back here in the back, and State Rep. I know there's some movement afoot. Oklahoma, I think, is petitioned to be able to have some self-determinations over what they can do. Some states are petitioning. I think Oklahoma's joined that relative to the SNAP population. And so, man, that's great. I think Oklahoma needs to lead the way on that. But I'd like to see the entire nation through Mike Lee and I's bill.
This guy's really bad at this. He's asked a very direct, easy question, you know, about how other countries actually have working healthcare systems. But the problem is we steal from our citizens. We extract as much money as possible and give it to rich people. But he couldn't answer. The main thing you need to hear from that answer was, he said, I have to know more about what you're talking about as far as public option and the way that other countries do it. I'd have to know more what you're talking about. We know you don't know anything that you're talking about. But he heard MAHA and went, yeah, I support RFK Jr. And all RFK Jr. talks about is food additives and dyes and colorings and fatty foods, because apparently that's the cause for every kind of ailment, every kind of sickness. Everything in the world is based off of all the additives. By the way, all that stuff that we put in our foods, because our politicians are still paid by corporations that take and cut corners and make sure they add all those additives and preserves and everything else that they do, because, you know, they paid you guys to allow all that stuff in our foods. It's also the reasons why so many other countries don't like to buy things that that these guys who on these trade deals are always talking about. You got to start buying American beef. When you got to start buying American cars. Well, we've degraded our quality of all these things here. And you just expect people to buy it. So your president is forcing it. But that's not even working. God, he's so stupid. I know TDR is about to start. I have a couple more clips from this guy. Just two more. Josh Breachin in Oklahoma, who doesn't know what he's doing, but for some reason never got booed, but did get challenged on one thing. Remember, he was talking about MAHA, making America healthy again, and how he has this commitment to, you know, this country. This guy busted him on his commitment to actually supporting Israel through his AIPAC donations.
Go ahead.
Can I finish? Okay. So you guys, I mean, whatever AIPAC paid for congressmen. Okay. Now, last month, before you even come into this meeting, you went to Israel.
I did go to Israel.
There is no other country allowed to take 40 member or 30 member of Congress, American Congress, to a different country. You didn't go to Britain. Did you go to Canada? These are our allies too. Did you go to, I don't want you to go to Lebanon. I'm Lebanese. I don't want you to go to Lebanon. I don't want you to pay
How about
Lebanon.
Syria?
Well, but don't go to Syria.
That's what I've been working on for 2 weeks. Do you know about the genocide that's happening in Soweto?
I know. I follow up with it. I completely. I can discuss that with you all day. But this.
Go ahead.
Can I finish?
Does he know about the genocide going on in Gaza? You know, after he was sent over there through AIPAC to then go carry water and push the same propaganda and talking points that they want him to push. Maybe he wasn't ready for people to actually understand what it is that he did. Here's this last little bit. Here's this same Oklahoma congressman. Josh Breachin. And he seemed very defensive about his trip to Israel and about these other genocides that people should be paying attention to, because he was paid to go there. And watch how this seemingly hostage style video where he's reading what someone told him to read to push the same agenda that he's been paid to push. He didn't like being asked about this.
Congressman Josh McKean, and this is my first time to Israel. It's been a whirlwind of events that we've had a chance to get the history on. Behind me is Gaza, and of course the ongoing problems that persist for the IDF trying to do the humanitarian thing of being able to go in and clear out that which is really the threat versus the civilians that are being used as the front. And as Hamas is dropping into tunnels that are coming out of homes, hospitals, synagogues, and not in soldiers' uniforms. And they are hiding behind the civilian population. And the desire of Israel to be able to protect those that are innocent, but to deal with the threat has been so complicated because of just the evil that is using the civilian population, men, women, and children, and then stealing the aid that's coming into this area, and having to have groups that are coming in to make sure that Hamas is not co-opting the food, the water supplies for their soldiers, taking it underground in the tunnels, and then using the front of the civilian population to their benefit. And it's just heinous what's occurring here. And so grateful that the administration is seeing this thing for what it is, and is fully behind the Prime Minister, the Israeli Defense Forces, and trying to make sure that we give them the free hand to deal with the murderer who lives in the shed behind the house.
That's who he represents. And I take that back. He didn't read that statement. That shit was way too dumb for him to have been written and read by anyone else that wanted him to give that video of support. He said the IDF is going to do that humanitarian thing. Nobody wrote that down. That was straight from, I've been mispronouncing his name the whole time. Apologies. Josh Breachin. That humanitarian thing that the IDF is doing is, that starvation humanitarian thing, that purposeful starvation thing that they're doing, that purposeful double tap, the double taps on hospitals and the murder of children as they watch people die and as they celebrate it, that humanitarian thing that they're doing. So why would anyone trust and believe anything that people like this guy say about what's going on in this country when it's been proven over and over again that he first has no idea what's going on? He's just looking to carry the same water and support the same MAGA movement in this country that gave him his job and for some reason keeps him in power. People finally have to stop supporting these guys. They don't expect you to do it before they finish killing your ass off and taking all your money. What's making America great again about that statement? That's it, you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow. It's a Friday show. I swear I'll try to look for something. Actually, let me not lie to you guys. I'm not gonna look for anything bright and cheery tomorrow because there's not anything bright and cheery happening. It'll be very tone deaf to think that there's anything bright and cheery going on in this country. They're attacking us from every angle. And then when they stand in front of you, they give you middle fingers and say, "What's the matter with you?" It's like you want to live or something. Get something for your money. Have a job. Live, raise your family, education, housing. Crazy how all that stuff is. You guys are so damn selfish. Anyways, that's it. So the damage report, I say, hey, all these videos, as I say all the time, are going to be going back up on the watch list page a little bit later today. Go ahead and share those. Let people know what we're doing here. Let them know we do this every day at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. We'll see you guys later. Good to see you.